Thank you, Kim. So today, we speak about faith. As we begin this time of Advent, which is a time of preparing ourselves for Christmas, and we can see it outside, of course. There's music and song and light and decoration, and that's so exciting, isn't it? And then we prepare ourselves for our families, for food and gifts and celebration with each other. And we prepare ourselves for becoming more and more aware of the Christ presence within us. Now, many of us think that the name Jesus Christ means that Christ is Jesus' last name. And it is not. It is a title. It means anointed. And so at Christmas, as we celebrate the birth of Jesus anointed, we also want to prepare ourselves to celebrate a rebirth, a reawakening of each of us anointed. Because what we believe is that Jesus was the exceptional example, not the only exception. That is, Jesus said to us that what he could do, we could do too. And staying in awareness of our oneness with all that is, with our oneness with God, with our oneness with the power that is within us at all times, but that we forget and that we misdirect in so many ways, is what we can glean from this Christmas season, is to become more aware of our own power and to celebrate that truth. And so we do have 5 candles in our Advent wreath. The first week we look at faith. The following week we look at peace, then love, then joy. The white candle represents the Christ, the anointed, the divinity that we all are. It's a precious season, and so often we end up getting distracted by all the busyness. And that is why my invitation to you is to hold that loving image, whatever it might be, because it helps at times when things may be going a little stir-crazy around you, to be able to recenter, to light the candle back within yourself. So today we're looking at faith. And what do we want to know about it? It's easy to talk about love. It's easy to talk about peace. It's easy to talk about joy. But faith is one of those languages, words that just sound so ethereal that it's really hard to get your head around what it might mean. And so it's really interesting to discover that, remember before I was away for a couple of weeks, we were doing this work with Brene Brown's book, The Gifts of Imperfection. Well, it was interesting to me to discover that in her book, she also identifies faith as being something that is consistent with people who she sees as living a wholehearted life. So what is this thing called faith that we see it not just in the words of Jesus 2,000 years ago, but in the words of Brene Brown 2 years ago, what is this thing called faith? I'm not going to go through the slides of all the other Brene Brown things that we have done, except to talk about what she says about faith today. And she says, let go of the need for certainty, cultivate intuition and trusting faith. Let go of numbing and powerlessness and cultivate a resilient spirit. What is faith? What is this resiliency that would be so powerful in our lives when things kind of rock us? Why is it so important? Faith is like Wi-Fi. It's invisible, but it has the power to connect you to what you need. Brene Brown says, faith is a place of mystery where we find the courage to believe in what we cannot see and the strength to let go of our fear of uncertainty. A place of mystery where we find the courage to believe in what we cannot see and the strength to let go of our fear of uncertainty. The founder of Unity, Charles Fillmore, said, faith, let me see if I can find the exact words for him, is the perceiving power of the mind linked with the power to shape substance. The perceiving power of the mind linked with the power to shape substance. Not really all that different from Brene Brown and her idea that faith is a place of mystery where we have courage to believe and strength to let go of our fear. It seems that there are two parts to this thing called faith. Two parts. And we see it in a couple of stories in the Bible. The first is Jesus is walking along in a crowd of people, and a blind man named Bartimaeus comes to him. And of course there's crowds everywhere. And people are basically telling Bartimaeus to get out of the way. He's been blind since birth. No hope. And he is determined, Bartimaeus is determined to go and find Jesus. And when he finally gets a hold of Jesus, gets through the crowd, Jesus says, your faith has made you whole. Another time, Jesus is going to, again in a crowd of people, going to Jairus' family home, because Jairus is someone who has asked Jesus to help heal his daughter. So he's got this crowd of people, he's on his way to Jairus' house, and a woman comes through the crowd again. A woman who has been bleeding for 12 years and touches the hem of his garment. And he says, who touched me? And the disciples all hanging around with him say, well, everybody's touching you. How can everyone, and he's like, no, somebody touched me. And he turns around to find this woman. And he says, your faith has made you whole. Now, nowhere does he say, my faith has made you whole. And I find that the most powerful and instructive part of this talking about faith is that no one can do it for us. We do it for ourselves. The other thing that metaphysically, because we could take a story like that and see how interesting it is anyway, but metaphysically is to take those characters and imagine them within us. So are there not parts of us that might have been blind from birth? Are there not parts of us that need healing? Parts of us that feel like we shouldn't be part of the crowd, that we're taking up too much space. And then longing for the truth, longing for the healing, longing for sight, longing to stop bleeding. And what do? We go to the Jesus presence. We go to the Christ presence. We go to the highest vibrational energy that we can come to, where our power lies. And we say to all those thoughts that say, no, you don't deserve to be there, why don't you go away, let the people who count, let the thoughts that count take precedence. And this longing to heal says, no, I am determined. I am determined to go to the highest. That's faith. And so I have 3 steps that I want to share with you. The first is imagination. Nothing begins without an idea. Nothing. A candle was somebody's idea of how to bring light. Imagination it's like the flick of the switch. So this person, Bartimaeus, who was blind, imagined sight. The woman who had been bleeding for 12 years and all of the different ways of trying to fix that had not worked. But she hung on to this imagined idea that she could be healed. So she had this vision. Imagination. Then we can imagine things all we want. But we have to take the step. We have to go through the crowd, through the naysaying, and move to action. It's like knowing that there's an electrical switch there and imagining that we'll turn it on. The light's not going to happen until we actually act. You've heard this from me before. 3 frogs are sitting on a lily pad and one of them decides to jump into the water. How many are left? 3. Because decision and action are 2 very different things. And our goal isn't just to imagine. Brene Brown talks about it in terms of she's got an attitude of yoga. She wears the right clothes and she's got the right mat and she might even join a club. But until she actually acts on it, it's just an idea. So we match our imagination with action. And then we maintain it. And sometimes this isn't easy. because we have the crowd in our head, sometimes the crowd who are our friends and family in our outer world, all saying, no, you can't do that. Go, get out of the way. Go sit back down. And to maintain whatever our imagined outcome is, in the face of all that crowded voice, sometimes takes a lot of courage. It takes strength, it takes resilience. And so there you go. 3 steps to faith. Imagine, act, maintain. And if you've been paying attention, you might notice that they are an acronym that also spells I am. And the reason that I chose this is because I am are 2 of the most powerful words in our language. And whatever we put beside the I am has power. And we have this habit, our human natures, of I aming negative, which means we're putting our faith in all that negative stuff. When we say I'm tired, we're imagining that we're tired. Then we act that we're tired. And then we maintain it every time we say I am. What if we said I am happy? What if we said I am joyful? What if the next time somebody says, how are you today? You say, I'm great. I watched a thing the other night on CNN where it was an excerpt from a movie, and somebody was saying, how are you? And the person said, well, actually, I'm not that great today. And the woman says, oh, we're telling the truth. Because what we do is we say, oh, how are you today? I'm great. Or I'm sad, or I'm tired. But never with real meaning. I used to work at Imperial Oil. And in Pearson, Saskatchewan, tiny little town, was one of the most inspirational people that I've ever worked with. His name is Arnie Foss. And one of the things he would say is, I'd say, Arnie, how are you today? And he'd say, if I was any better, there would be 2 of me. Wow. Zest for life. Such an inspiration. And so, this season, I invite you to think about your I am. Can you imagine a peace-filled, faith-filled season? Are you willing to act to make that happen? And when things throw at you and threaten to disturb that peace, are you willing to stand strong and maintain it? That is the power and the gift of faith. And so, for a faith-filled Christmas, here are some suggestions that I have. Instead of buying presents, be present. When you wrap gifts, remember you can also wrap someone in a hug. When you send cards, send your love. When you shop for food, give some away. When you make cookies, make peace. And when you see the lights, remember to be the light. Imagine, act, maintain. I wish you a faith-filled